Students, we have started with the standards of measurements, and we have seen last time the fits, that is clearance fit, transition fit, and interference fit. Next is the basic shaft. Now, what is the basic shaft, or which shaft is known as a basic shaft? The shaft in which the upper deviation is zero. The maximum limit of shaft coincides with the basic size, means the tolerance zone is given below the basic size. So upper division is 0, that is known as basic shaft. This is taken for the reference for designing, so that we'll see in detail when we see uh, the further slides. So basic shaft is the shaft in which the upper deviation is 0. Then the basic hole, which hole is taken as basic hole? That where the lower deviation is 0. That is the minimum limit of hole coincides with the basic size. So this is the basic hole, this is the basic shaft, the diagram for that. This shaded region shown is for the tolerance zone. Then there are two systems, the hole basis system and shaft basis system. What is this in detail we'll see when we proceed further. Uh, we can see here the hole basis system, the hole is constant, the size of the hole is constant, and it is to the basic size, that is the basic hole, and the shaft is varied. Shaft is changed as per the requirement of the fit. If the clearance fit is required, then the shaft is shown, it is symbolically shown here. Then if the transition fit is required, the shaft is shown, and if the interference fit is required, the shaft is shown or the drawn like this. So this is what is the hole basis system, or the diagram for hole basis system. The size of the hole kept constant here, and the shaft size is varied as per the requirement of the fit. So if we require clearance fit, the shaft will be like this, transition fit and interference fit. Next is the shaft basis system. Second is the shaft basis system, in which the size of shaft is kept constant, and it is the basic shaft where the upper deviation is 0 and the maximum material limit uh, is the basic size that we have seen in this slide. This is the basic shaft. So this basic shaft is kept constant, and as per the fit required, the size of the hole is varied. So size of the shaft is kept constant and hole size is varied to get the different fits. So for clearance fit, it is shown like this, for transition fit and for interference fit, where we can see the zone, tolerance zone is entering into the shaft basic size. So since the in interference fit, the press fitting is required, some force is required to get fitted hole and shaft. So that's why it is it's shown like this. So diagrammatically, if you want to represent the shaft basis system, this is the diagram for the shaft basis system, where the shaft is kept constant to its basic size, and the hole sizes are varied to get the respective fits. Then there is BIS, that is Bureau of Indian Standards, recommends both hole basis and shaft basis systems, but their selection depends on production method. Now we know that whenever we are producing a shaft, only turning is sufficient. So with the help of lathe, we can reduce, or we can have the dimension of a shaft to any level. So we can say if the basic size is given as 50 and the tolerance zone is given as plus minus 0.8, so 15.8 and 49.2 is the upper and lower limit, and anything between that is acceptable. That dimension we can have on a shaft with the help of a lathe machine simply. But whenever we are going for a hole, we have to go for different operations such as drilling, boring, or reaming, broaching. So such operations are doing internally, we are doing, and to control the dimension is very difficult, because whenever we are going for drilling a hole, we may get a drill bit of 50 cross section, right? And we may drill a hole, but if you want the drill bit of 15.8 or 15.6, 15.5, it is not possible. So for hole, we cannot say that we can control the dimensions perfectly with the help of such type of operations. But for shaft, we use the turning operation, and where we can control the dimensions very easily, and hence the shaft basis system is recommended. If the shaft basis system is used to specify the limit dimensions to obtain various types of fits, number of holes are of different sizes are required, which in turn requires the tool of different sizes. So hole, to create a hole and to maintain the dimension of the hole is a problem, because it may require lot of tools, lot of types of tools, and it will be a costly affair. And if the hole basis, means if the hole is kept constant, then we can vary the shaft diameters very easily with the help of turning. So hence the hole basis system, if we use, then we can reduce the production cost, that we can see. Because if we are varying the hole, it will be a costly affair, because internally to maintain a dimension with the help of drilling or reaming, with the help of boring or broaching, it will be very costly affair, very difficult, because we may have to go for some lot of types of lot of variety of tools. But for shaft, we can control the dimension, we can have the various dimensions very easily, and hence if we keep the hole constant, and if we change the dimension of the shaft depending on the fits required, it will be easier, it will be economical, and hence we can say that the hole basis system is reducing the production cost, or it is economical to use. So uh, as we can see, only one tool with the help of which we can produce a hole, and we can change the shaft. We can easily maintain the dimension of the shaft with the help of turning operation. So we can vary the dimension of shaft, we'll keep the dimension of hole constant, so we use the hole basis system, and that will be economical. Next term is interchangeability. Now what is interchangeability? Now earlier days, the whole assembly is produced at one place, and all the parts required for that assembly are produced at one place, and it will be easier for that operator to assemble that. But nowadays what is happening, because of the globalization, assembly, if you are producing, say a car is a product of a company, then that car will require some number of parts to be get assembled, and that parts may be produced at different locations. So it may be some pistons, if you require, say of 50 diameter, then some 10,000 pistons we are producing at one place, and it is going to assemble with a cylinder which can be produced at some other place. So that cylinder and piston assembly, or that should match to that cylinder. So the parts produced at different locations are to be brought together at one place to get assembled, and that parts should get assembled very easily. So that is what is the concept of interchangeability. Interchangeable parts are the parts that are for practical purposes identical. They are made to specifications that ensures that they are so nearly identical that they will fit into any assembly of the same type. It means a piston produced at one location will get assembled with the cylinder produced at different locations. So that this is leading to what? The specialization. Means a company or a worker or a operator doing the same job at the all the time, he is producing the same object, because he may not have to concentrate with for the all the parts of the assembly. He will concentrate on one part, because the other parts will be he will be getting from some other locations. So a part produced at one location will get assembled with the part produced at other location anywhere else. So we can say that this is what is interchangeability. To achieve this, then these specifications are very important. Nowadays this is happening कि the ancillary units or the subsidiary units of a company or industries are producing some parts required for the assembly. So Tata Motors is producing a car, then there are number of units working on the parts required for assembling that car. We have seen that are known as ancillary units, and that parts are getting assembled in Tata Motors to form to get a product finally produced as a car. So one such part can freely replace another without any custom fitting. So whenever we go for any part replacement, we require the part of the same size, and that is available in the market. So that is because of the term interchangeability. This interchangeability allows easy assembly of new devices and easier repair of existing devices while minimizing both the time. So assembly and repair or replacement is made easier with the help of interchangeability. Any one part selected randomly, कोणताही पार्ट त्या साईजचा आपण त्या स्पेसिफिकेशनचा पार्ट आपण घेऊन त्याला असेंबल करू शकतो. So we'll get assembled correctly with any other mating part, that too chosen randomly. Such system called as interchangeability. This is what is interchangeability. Interchangeability is possible only when certain standards are strictly followed. So these standards are followed throughout the world, and we can say that the parts produced in India will get assembled somewhere else in the Europe or some US, then it will get assembled easily because they are produced to the specifications. Universal interchangeability means the parts to be assembled are from two different manufacturing sources. So we can see that the location of manufacturing can be different, but they are produced to the specification and can be assembled very easily. We can take simply example of any our daily life. So the tire required for a motorcycle, so it is to the specification. You can see on the tire it is given the number. So that number is nothing but the specification. So that tire will get fit to that motorcycle. Otherwise, if that number changes, we cannot say that that will get replaced correctly. Local interchangeability means all the parts assembled are made in the same manufacturing. So this is universal interchangeability and local interchangeability. Local means within the manufacturing unit at the same location, and universal is at different locations. Nowadays we are having this universal interchangeability. Anything produced at one location will get assembled to the part produced at some different location. Then next is selective assembly. This is what is interchangeability. There can be a question separately, what is the concept of interchangeability. Second is selective assembly. Now in selective assembly, we have to select or sort out the parts. Say we are producing some parts, so some parts will be oversized, some parts will be undersized, and some parts will be produced to its basic size, right? So these parts are sorted out, means oversized parts are taken at one place, then undersized are sorted, and then basic size. So we'll divide that parts produced into three categories: so oversized, undersized, and say basic size. And because this is assembly we are doing, means it is the male and female part. So a nut and bolt, say. So if a nut, oversized nut, undersized nuts, and basic size nuts are sorted, then the oversized bolts undersized bolts and the basic size bolts are sorted, and then the basic size bolts can be very easily assembled with the basic size nuts. Then oversized bolts can be assembled with oversized nuts. The undersized bolts can be assembled with the undersized nuts. So this type of things is known as selective assembly, where we have to select as per they are produced. If they are oversized, we have to sort out all the oversized male and female parts, undersized and basic size. So in selective assembly, the parts are graded or sorted according to the size, and only match grades of mating parts are assembled. This technique is most suitable where close fit of two components assembled is required, because oversized will assemble with the oversized part. Oversized male part will be assembled with the oversized female part, nut and bolt, or any type of assembly we are doing, hole and the shaft. So all the oversized are assembled together, all the basic size are assembled together, and all the undersized are assembled together. So the fits uh, obtained will be very close, right? And whenever we require this selective assembly is used. So whenever we are going for some sophisticated product to be produced, as we can see in air industries or in automobile industries, where the safety and security and the assembly is of the prime importance, so that time we'll go for the selective assembly. This technique is most suitable where the close fit of two components assembled is required. Selective assembly provides complete protection against non-conforming assemblies. So we cannot, we will see that some say parts scrap will be very reduced, or no say rejection will be there, because oversized are sorted out and they are assembled with oversize. So we can say that scrap and rework or say rejection is reduced. So non-conforming assemblies are reduced, and reduced the machining cost as close tolerance can be maintained. So by sorting out all this, by grading out all this, we can maintain the close tolerances, and we can say that we can reduce the production cost or machining cost. Then used in aircraft, automobile industries, where tolerances are very narrow and not possible to manufacture at reasonable cost. So selective assembly is a concept which is very useful in producing the close tolerances assemblies. So this is the concept of selective assembly. Then next is measuring and gauging. Now in this, we are maintaining the quality, or we are checking the parts or inspecting the parts in two ways. One is we measuring the dimensions. Second, just we are gauging. So measuring is different than the gauging. Measuring, in which we are reading, or we are getting the direct readings with the help of some equipment such as scale, vernier caliper, or micrometer. So with this we can check, not only we can check the dimensions, but also we can get the reading for the dimension. But in gauging, we are not getting the reading, we can only check whether it is to the perfect size or not. That is what is gauging. And gauging is preferable because it can be done by any unskilled person. No need of having knowledge of taking readings and all this, and it is randomly we can do. So no need of getting the readings. So just we can check the dimension, whether it is undersized or oversized or to the basic size, with the help of gauges. So gauging is very useful, and very randomly or say rapidly we can check the dimensions. So measuring is a direct reading process in which the inspection instrument consists of a continuous series of linear measurement units. So we have seen in scale or vernier caliper, we can measure the dimensions and we can get the readings in the numbers, commonly known as scale. Gauging is checking that component fits within tolerance limit or not. So whether it is undersized or oversized or basic size, that we are checking only. We are not taking any reading. So gauging or gauges are very useful in industries for wherever we are going for mass production, and when we are going for inspection of some number of identical parts. So it is every time not possible to take the measurements or measuring of that. So in that situation we will go for gauging, and that will be very useful. So there are two type of gauges, no go gauge and no go gauge. What is go gauge and what is no go gauge, that we'll see in detail. So a go no go gauge refers to an inspection tool used to check a workpiece against the allowed tolerances. So these gauges are two types, go gauge and no go gauges, and these are the inspection tools whether that will check the component or the parts produced, whether that is within the tolerance limit or not. The gauge has two tests to check, involves the workpiece having passed one test, go. So go gauge, it should uh, pass through, and that we'll see in detail, no doubt. And the no go gauge, it should fail. So how it is checking, how we are inspecting with the go and no go gauge, that we'll see in detail. So two tests are to be done for every part. Go gauge, it should pass, and no go gauge, it should fail. So we can say that that part or that component produced is within the tolerance limit. A go no go gauge is an inspection tool that does not measure a size in the conventional sense. So it is not measuring the size, it is not giving any reading, it is just checking the state, it is just checking the condition of that shaft or hole, whether it is within the tolerance limit or not. That is only, means confirming a part and non-confirming a part on the basis of the size to it is produced. So we can only check that, we cannot get any reading with the help of gauges. The state is either acceptable or it is not acceptable or unacceptable, means it is confirming or non-confirming. So if it is within the limit, we can accept that. If it is getting oversized or undersized, then we will have to reject that. So parts within the tolerance may be used or acceptable, and parts which are say not within the limit can be rejected. So this we can do with the help of gauges very randomly, very fast. So gauges are well suited for the use of in the mass production. That already I have told you, whenever we are going for producing number of identical parts in mass, right? So it will be very difficult to maintain the quality and to check the quality, and for the inspector it will be very tedious job to check the quality of each part produced. So we can randomly select and we can just check it with the gauges. So no need of taking readings and maintaining the data sheet and putting the readings and seeing that whether we are producing some faulty parts or not. But by checking, just by checking the dimensions with the gauges, we can rapidly, we can very fast, we can check the dimensions of that part. So gauges are suited for mass production. They require little skill. Skill required will be very less, because no need of taking readings, just to check whether that part is whether it is conforming to the dimension with the gauges. How we are checking that, I will tell you in the next slides. It is just requiring hardly any skill in the operator, and its interpretation is very effective. Then there is classification of gauges. They are according to type, they are standard gauge and limit gauge. Then according to the surface to be tested, they are plug gauge and snap gauge. Plug gauges are used to check the holes, snap gauges are used to check the shafts. That we'll see in detail, how the plug gauges are working and how the snap gauges are working. And according to their design, there is single limit and double limit gauges, single end and double end gauges, fixed and adjustable gauges. So this we'll see in detail. Then according to deposition of tolerances on gauges, workshop gauges, inspection gauges and general gauges. So depending on the quality to be maintained or their severity of the work, they are workshop gauges, inspection gauges and general gauges. So this is the classification of gauges. These gauges are required to check the dimension, external dimension and internal dimension. So shaft and hole, because every assembly we find male and female part. So holes are to be checked whether it is whatever dimension we are having, cross section can be triangular, square, rectangular or round, and the male part means the shafts, which can be checked with the help of the gauges also. So this, according to this, the gauges are classified and this is the classification. So we'll see the details of these gauges next time.